30 up to 40 million COVID-19 vaccine will arrive in Indonesia in the end of 2020. PTPP is about to finish Papua Sport Palace development. Good afternoon, viewers in Indonesia and Singapore. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from the business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Wicky Adrian. This is Market Headlines. Coordinating Minister of Maritime and Investment Affairs, Luhut Binsar Panjaitan, said that 30 up to 40 million COVID-19 vaccine will arrive in Indonesia in the end of 2020. Regarding that, he believes that it will bring more positive impacts to the Indonesian economy in 2021.
Coordinating Minister of Maritime and Investment Affairs, Luhut Binsar Panjaitan, stated that in the end of 2020, 30 up to 40 million of COVID-19 vaccine will arrive in Indonesia. Luhut said that the arrival of additional vaccine will suppress the COVID-19 cases so that it can help the government in recovering the national economy, especially in 2021. According to him, the government has handled COVID-19 well, even though the government has already experienced many obstacles in handling the pandemic in the earlier period.
Memang awal-awal Maret, April, Mei kita masih banyak mengalami hambatan. Tapi sekarang sudah makin tertib penanganannya. Tentu untuk menghilangkan kita harus menunggu obat dan vaksinnya. Vaksin pertama akan masuk di Indonesia pada awal Desember. Mudah-mudahan bisa lebih cepat. Kalau schedule ini berjalan dengan baik dengan jumlah 30 juta vaksin sampai 40 juta vaksin pada tahun ini, maka critical time kita adalah 2 bulan ke depan. Dan setelah itu nanti kuartal pertama tahun depan keadaan akan menjadi makin baik.
Meantime, by the arrival of vaccine and better pandemic handling, the minister asked all SMEs and business actors to be ready to face economic recovery and keeps maintaining competitiveness to help Indonesian economy revival. From Jakarta, Muhammad Olga for IDX Channel.
Indonesia and the United Nations Children's Funds, or UNICEF, just signed a memorandum of understanding on provision of procurement services that was prepared for obtaining and distributing COVID-19 vaccines. By this agreement, it is expected that the price of COVID-19 vaccines can be way more affordable.
Finally, by now Indonesia has actively engaged in international and multilateral talks to access future COVID-19 vaccines as Indonesia fulfilled the requirement as advanced market commitment. Indonesia will be receiving vaccines for 20% of populations along with official development assistance or ODA financial relief. The minister predicts that the vaccines obtained from the multilateral route will start to be available in 2021. And through the ODA program, she expected that the vaccine's price will be much more affordable compared to the previous partnership mechanism.
Perkiraan kita, vaksin melalui jalur multilateral ini akan tersedia pada tahun 2021. Yang pasti dengan adanya bantuan finansial ODA, maka diharapkan harga vaksin akan lebih murah dibanding mekanisme yang lain.
With the signing of this MOU, it is expected that if vaccines through a multilateral mechanism already exist, then all necessary infrastructure will be readied so that no delays in distributions occur. From Jakarta, Ricky Anwardi for IDX Channel.
President Commissioner of Pertamina Basuki Cahayapurnama, or Ahok, is back in the public spotlight. This time, Ahok delivered criticism through a short video on YouTube. To clear things up just now, Pertamina spokesperson finally gave his response. A short video on YouTube that contained Ahok's criticism towards Pertamina has gone viral with 20,000 likes and up to 1.25 million views. As response, Pertamina's Vice President of Corporate Communication, Fajar Wayong, said that Pertamina is very respect on what Ahok said. This is in line with Pertamina's program, which is restructuring the company. The position of Ahok is the main commissioner who is in charge of overseeing the company so that it is in accordance with the good corporate governance system. In conclusion, Ahok's criticism was a good deed so that Pertamina will become more effective, fast adaptive, and competitive.
Kami menghargai pernyataan Pak Basuki sebagai komisaris utama yang memang bertugas untuk pengawasan dan memberikan arahan. Sebagai komisaris utama, masukan yang telah disampaikan beliau baik melalui rapat-rapat rutin setiap minggunya maupun channel komunikasi lainnya telah menjadi perhatian manajemen untuk ditindaklanjuti. Hal ini juga sejalan dengan restrukturisasi dan pembenahan yang sedang dilakukan direksi agar perusahaan menjadi lebih cepat, lebih adaptif dan juga kompetitif.
Due to project delays and cancellations in both the public and private sectors, Indonesian Contractors Association mentioned that 50% of domestic construction companies have permanently shut down their business.
Indonesia Building Contractor Association revealed that around 50% of the country's construction companies have permanently shut down their businesses as of July, with small firms taking the biggest hit amid project delays and cancellations in the both public and private sector. The association chairperson Agusti Mirawati said that small contractors in rural areas were losing business as local administrations cut their budgets for infrastructure projects and maintenance to fund COVID-19 containment measures. In addition to project cancellation, contractors have also allocated additional expenditure for COVID-19 transmission prevention equipment and health protocol implementation during the construction process. The association hopes that the Public Works and Housing Ministry will restart the infrastructure projects in rural regions that were cancelled by local administrations. The pandemic has taken a toll on infrastructure development globally, while in Indonesia, supply chain disruptions have slowed the construction of ongoing projects, while the reallocation of state funds to social programs has decreased the amount of funds going to new projects. The Public Works Ministry budget has been slashed by 34.5 trillion rupiah as part of the government's latest budget reallocation program to finance the government's COVID-19 mitigation effort and economic stimulus. From all sources for IDX Channel.
Low credit absorption has been one of the issues that hamper national economic recovery. But this time, Finance Ministry claimed that credit for small medium enterprises has been distributed more than it was initially targeted.
Statistic Indonesia in July showed that business actors still need incentives realizations to keep their business revival. Low credit absorptions was the main issue back then. But now, Finance Ministry confirmed that the number of realizations has increased positively. Government's fund that is distributed to small medium enterprises has passed through the target of 90 trillion rupiah, whereas the total credit distributions has reached 109.2 trillion rupiah. While the amount of credit distribution through the Regional Development Bank has reached 4.2 trillion rupiah from the initial 11.5 trillion rupiah allocated funds.
Penyaluran kreditnya telah mencapai 109,2 triliun. Dan untuk penempatan 11,2 triliun di BPD, sudah terjadi realisasi penyaluran sebesar 4,2 triliun.
Meanwhile, the special incentives that is aimed at 15 million small medium enterprises through productive presidential assistance has been distributed to more than 5 million small medium enterprises. It is worth 13.42 trillion rupiah. And by speeding up credit realizations, it is expected that national economic recovery can run smoothly. Jakarta, Rahaja Pakmo for IDX Channel.
Market headlines will be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Clara Antawijaya. I'm associate producer and news presenter on Market Headlines. As Market Headlines starts at 4:30 p.m., which is in line with the closing market, therefore we summarize market conditions only for you. And my job in here as a journalist, I give concise and accurate news for the audience. And also, being a journalist is not only a job for me, but it is also a passion.
Baik saja tidak cukup, kita harus betul-betul memahami lingkungan bisnis global yang lebih baik, plus di dalam negerinya sosiologi dan antropologi, supaya totalitas kita membantu petani secara efektif.
Kita memang ketahanan pangan, tetapi kita menuju ke kedaulatan pangan.
Ada shadow power yang mendikte pembangunan sektor pertanian bukan oleh Kementerian Pertanian.
DKI Jakarta akan kembali menerapkan pembatasan sosial berskala besar.
Kita akan menarik rem darurat, yang itu artinya kita terpaksa kembali menerapkan pembatasan sosial berskala besar.
Bagaimana Anda melihat kondisi dari pandemi COVID-19 sampai sejauh ini?
Yang paling akan langsung terkena dampaknya adalah orang-orang yang bekerja di sektor informal.
Welcome back. Bank of Indonesia highlights the slow pace of Indonesia's foreign debt growth in July 2020 by 0.1% year-on-year from 5.1% recorded in June 2020.
Bank of Indonesia highlights the slow pace of growth of Indonesia's foreign debt in July 2020 by 4.1% year-on-year from 5.1% recorded in June 2020. Head of the Central Bank's Communication Department, Oni Wijanarko, stated that the latest foreign debt is driven by a decline in private foreign debt growth amid the relatively stable growth of the government's external debt. He expounded that Indonesia's foreign debt position at the end of July 2020 was recorded at $409.7 billion, comprising the public sector, the government and central bank with $201.8 billion, and the private sector, including state-owned enterprises, $207.9 billion. In the same time, Wijanarko remarked that the government's foreign debt position at the end of July 2020 was recorded at $199 billion, or grew 2.3% year-on-year, which was contributed by the withdrawal of part of the commitment of multilateral institutions and the issuance of samurai bonds to meet financing requirements, including for handling the COVID-19 pandemic and the National Economic Recovery Program. From all sources for IDX Channel.
Indonesia's foreign debt continues to increase month by month. How big is current foreign debt and what are the components that cause increasing foreign debt? And let's move directly to the first graphic in today's graphic session. This is Indonesia's foreign debt. Indonesia recorded the highest foreign debt, as much as $410.2 billion in January 2020. As much as 410.2, and then Indonesia's recorded foreign debt as much as 388.9 in March 2020 as the lowest foreign debt compared to another month in 2020. And meantime, for July, Indonesia's recorded foreign debt as much as $409.7 billion US dollar. And head of the communication department of Bank of Indonesia, Oniwi Janarko, noted that the position of public sector external debt was $201.8 billion, or almost 3,000 trillion rupiah. Meanwhile, private external debt, including SOE, stood at $207.9 billion US dollar. Meantime, Indonesia's external debt growth in July 2020 was recorded at 4.1% year-on-year, slowing down compared to the previous month's growth of 5.1%. Even though Indonesia's external debt continues to grow, the structure of Indonesia's external debt is currently considered to be healthy. Based on the central bank's records, the ratio of Indonesia's external debt to GDP at the end of July 2020 was at 38.2%. So how is actually the allocation of Indonesia's foreign debt, especially government and central banks' debt? Let's see it onto the next graphic. This is the allocation of Indonesia's foreign debt, as much as 23.6% allocated for health and social services. Meantime, as much as 16.5% of the total foreign debt allocated for construction, 16.5% allocated for education services, financial and insurance services, 11.9%, and government administration, defense, and mandatory social security, as much as 11.8%. The central bank assesses that government's external debt is managed in a measured and prudent manner to support priority spending, specifically the health services sector and social activities. In other side, private external debt growth in July 2020 was recorded at 6.1% year-on-year, slower than the 8.3% growth in June 2020. Furthermore, the development of private sector foreign debt is influenced by the continued slowdown in the growth of non-financial institutions' corporate external debt and the contraction of external debt of financial institutions. Meantime, some of the largest debt sectors, reaching 77.2% of the private debt, are the financial services and insurance sector. And I'm sure that many of you are questioning why government's debt is still increasing, well highlighted in the next slide. This is the reasons for increased government foreign debt, as much as $199 billion US dollar in July 2020, or grew by 2.3% year-on-year. Partial withdrawal of multilateral institutions' commitments and issuance of samurai bonds. The allocation will be divided into two main allocation. Two of them, or they are COVID-19 handling and national economy recovery program. And the government's debt in July 2020 grew 2.3% year-on-year, relatively stable as compared to the 2.1% growth in June 2020. The government claimed that increasing debt is in line with the government's needs in funding, especially amidst COVID-19 pandemic. But one of the interesting things is stated by Chief Economist of Bank Central Asia, David Sumual, that he said government's debt is over-financing. David explained that the government's policy to attract more debt at the beginning of the year to anticipate spending has been done for a long time to anticipate uncertainty in the financial market. However, the slow absorption of state spending is also not a new problem, and the government needs to be better at managing state spending. And viewers, government's debt issues is always interesting for public, but how is the response of economists to this latest issue? Let's see it through the next graphic. This is the statement of Peter Abdullah. He said that I always say only Indonesia has too much criticism in the widening deficit and soaring debt, because these are two things that we cannot avoid. Meantime, the next statement came from Didik J. Rahbini. He said that now that we are in a debt trap, we have to take debt to pay off debts. This is relatively heavy. Yeah, regarding this, Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani even clearly stated that Indonesia cannot just continue to rely on debt. She said that it is important to see all existing sources of state income. Therefore, the resources that come from domestic economic activities are very important. And for this, economists agree that state income from taxation is needed to be elevated. So the government needs to implement tax reform to improve compliance and tax base. And with such a huge value, of course, the government is expected to be able to manage debt levels well. Even if possible, the government must slowly reduce the level of debt so that the financial burden does not continue to grow. Stay tuned on Market Headlines because we'll be right back after the break.
Nama saya Devisa Novel, jabatan saat ini di IDX Channel adalah sebagai produser dan sekaligus presenter program yang dibawakan saat ini dengan nama IDX Second Session Closing, terkait juga dengan kondisi capital market Indonesia dan perkembangannya dari waktu ke waktu. Dan saya sangat senang untuk belajar dan berkecimpung di berita ekonomi, khususnya di capital market.
Adi akan ada proyek bikin hunian atau tempat tinggal?
Konsepnya adalah membawa kemudahan masyarakat sekitar Jakarta untuk bekerja di pusat kota. Total saat ini Adi Komputer Property mengembangkan 11 titik ya. Kalau Mas baru beli sekarang mungkin udah ke 3.000 sekian pembeli.
Kita bisa mulai merasakan fase 1 di tahun berapa?
Di tahun 2021.
Saat ini lebih mudah untuk mendapatkan informasi mengenai perkembangan ekonomi dan bisnis di Indonesia dengan aplikasi IDX Channel. Mulai dari berita, makro dan mikroekonomi, politik hingga hiburan. Anda juga dapat berbagi artikel, foto, dan video ke semua platform media sosial yang Anda miliki. Beragam informasi hari ini bisa di-download di dalam aplikasi idxchannel.com. IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business, and Capital Market Channel.
Pandemi Corona memberikan dampak yang signifikan bagi para pelaku usaha. Namun meski demikian, Konfederasi Serikat Pekerja Indonesia atau KSPI meminta kenaikan upah minimum sebesar 8%.
We're on the last segment at the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. Earlier today, JCI was open at the level of 5,090.12. Then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on the level of 5,047.43. Then index was showing weakening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 5,038.4. In short, JCI went down 0.4%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement leading the dynamics of today's trading. We got construction as the leaders, as the leader of this rising trend that went up 2.55%. Miss Industry went up 1.16%, and the leader of the weakening trend, we got Basic Industry went down 1.59%, and Finance went down 0.78%. And moving on to the top gainers and top losers in today's trading, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. MDKA went up 2.94% at 1,575. Best went up 12.14% at 194. ISA went up 22.61% at 244, and Astra International went up 1.67% at 4,860. Meantime, the top losers for today's trading, we've got BBRI went down 1.84% at 3,200. BBNI went down 3.08% at 4,720. INKP went down 6.38% at 8,800. Pegas or PGAS went down 3.23% at 1,050. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Open at the level of 14,878. Rupiah was also showing strengthening trend towards US dollar. Was closed at the level of 14,817. In summary, rupiah went up 0.36%. After months of construction, PTPP has finally announced development for Papua Sport Palace in nearing the end of their work, whereas progress has reached 98%.
Construction Engineering Company, PTPP, is the one that in charge for Papua Sport Palace development that is aimed for 2020 National Sports Week. By now, the company is about to finish the project as the progress has shown 98% of readiness. Novel Arshad, as President Director of the company, stated that the readiness of supporting infrastructure is very important in this biggest sporting event in Indonesia. Istora Papua was built in August 2019 and has an area of 7,740 square meters. The sport venue is the biggest in Indonesia, surpassing the Istora Gelora Bung Karno, Jakarta. The project, which has a contract value of 278 billion rupiah, was undertaken with the implementation period of 23 months. From all sources, IDX Channel.
And step aside from market condition, as coronavirus pandemic takes big role on current economic situation. And here is an update data about coronavirus globally. And the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. I'm Wicky Adrian. Have a nice evening.